Now, changing hats. I am also a colonel in the United States Army Reserve. I was commissioned in May of 1983. Continued to serve on active duty and lots of years of reserve and so forth. And as I was at the Army War College and working on a master's degree in strategic studies, learning a lot of different things about our world and things from a strategic standpoint. One of the things that we talked about is that there's 60 failing nations throughout the world. Failing nations are nations that there's ungoverned areas, there's basically, it's a haven for drug cartels and for all kinds of different activities. As we learned from Afghanistan, it can be an area where terrorist organizations will be able to have base camps to train and so forth, and then reach out and attack the interests of the United States and attack our country, as in what happened on the events of 9/11. So, in that, what we have been looking at as a nation is going into countries and helping with stability and helping with governance, helping those people to govern themselves, to be able to enforce laws, rules, regulations, to be able to make sure they have an orderly society and one that has restrictions on human rights violations and is able to function in a global system as a player that is not going to be a danger to the rest of the world. There is a philosophy that was put out by a gentleman by the name of Immanuel Kant in 1795. He wrote a book called Perpetual Peace. In there it talks about that democracies do not attack or do not fight other democracies. And while there's some debate over that and so forth, that is something that has some merit to it. And so as the United States is attempting to work with other countries to help them to have the people in charge of their countries rather than tyrants and dictators bringing about the democracy. So a big part of what we do in the Army is called civil affairs or stability operations. We go in and we help countries to govern themselves. We help them with their economy, we help them with rules of law, we help the people to be able to help themselves. As a colonel in the United States Army, I have been since 9/11 working in various positions, and I've been fortunate enough to be selected for command positions of units that do not deploy. They're here. We've been training the soldiers that are going over. I relinquished my 06, my colonel command back in March, finished the Army War College just last month. And so I would like to let you know, and I also wanted to bring my wife because this is an announcement that I wanted her to be here for, to be aware of, and to share with you. I am going to be mobilized with the Army, and so I will be deploying with the 358th Civil Affairs Brigade. We will be going to Fort Dix January 22nd, and we'll be doing some of our training up there. We will go into Iraq in March of 2010, and I will be there till March of 2011. Prior to that time, I'll be going to Fort Bragg, doing some training there on civil affairs and getting up to speed on a few things. We'll continue as the city administrator up until the time that I'm mobilized, but I will have some additional training that I need to do. As my job will be, I will be in charge of a civil liaison team. There will be a total of 14 teams that are going out, and we're going to be spread out through Iraq. We're going to be working with the local governments there. We'll be working with them to, again, on governance, rule of law, the economy, because as part of what is happening is that the combat forces are pulling out. And so a lot of the attention is shifting over to Afghanistan. Well, my job, along with the other people that are going, is to make sure that those governments that have been put in place to provide services, to protect the people of Iraq to provide government law protection will be successful. So it is a huge sacrifice for many people, most of all my family. And I know that there will be challenges with the community and so forth, but this is something that I think that is important, and it's something that needs to be done. And I am honored that I am going to be able to do this duty, that I will be able to serve my country in this capacity. And so I would like to ask all of your well wishes, your thoughts, your prayers, and there will be obviously some time before I actually deploy, but a lot of things to think about. And so this has just come about in the past couple of weeks here. And with that, I'll open up to your questions.
How about that old bypass? When are you going to get it so I can drive past these? How about that old bypass? I've got a bet on when it gets finished, okay?
Okay, I had a meeting with Caltrans on Tuesday, and they said early September. So when I first talked to them about it a few weeks ago, they said it would take about 2 weeks, because they said this is going to be really important. We got to get it open. We got to move on it fast. And then that 2 weeks became 4 weeks, and then 4 weeks was kind of what they were saying, but then they started waffling, saying 4 to 6 weeks. So early September is what I was just told as of Tuesday, and that's not the best window.
Maybe January, Jim.
Yeah.
Well, a miracle did happen here, guys. I mean, this project, the bypass, was under budget and 19 months ahead of schedule. I mean, I don't know what happened, but it was pretty amazing.
They forgot to do the exits.
Right.
Yeah, they forgot a lot of stuff.
It's really going to be, how are they going to get us, when you're going down the hill, how are you going to get up? Are they going to, it doesn't look logical.
Okay, what's going to happen is that there will be a turn lane. Okay, so if you're coming down from Murphy's and you're heading down towards Angels Camp, there'll be what they call the shoe fly. And if you're kind of driving over, you can kind of begin to see what they're doing. And what it is okay, off of Highway 4, they're taking and bringing the road around, and it'll connect at a right angle to Highway 4, and there will be a stop sign right there. So if you're coming from Murphy's, you're heading down, you can get into a left-hand turn lane, and you can turn left on the shoe fly, follow that around, and it'll put you onto the old Highway 4, and then you continue on. Vice versa, if you're coming up Highway 4, like from the Angels Fire Station, and then you're turning onto, you can come around the shoe fly, and then turn left or right on Highway 4. Yeah, John.
Yeah, we have great mountain sports up here, but we ain't got an ocean last time I looked. Is there any marketing strategy that talks about pairing cities up as sister cities like us with Santa Barbara, where there's an ocean but not skiing or mountains? Is that something that works, or?
I've not heard anything like that. I think there's an opportunity for a lot of pairing between Angels Camp and Murphy's, from the standpoint that each of the two communities have some different things to offer: golf, the shopping, the wineries, things like that, lodging. So I think marketing and working together between Angels and Murphy's makes a lot of sense. But as far as distance type of marketing, no. And we do have New Maloney's, though. 120 miles of shoreline. That's our ocean. Yes.
Does Angels Camp have a redevelopment agency?
No, Angels Camp does not have a redevelopment. Well, okay, let me qualify that. Angels Camp does have a redevelopment agency, but there's no plan. So in effect, it does not have a redevelopment agency. It's only on paper, and then once a year we have to file with the state saying no activity, and there cannot be any activity because it doesn't have a plan, so there's no income, there's no payments.
I was thinking of the Utica House. That seems to me a project for redevelopment. To take a beautiful piece of property and start making it productive.
Well, there's, yes, you're right, that could be a project, and it's been talked about that if there was a redevelopment agency, that would be one, or maybe even possibly the priority project. But there's a lot to, dealing with redevelopment, pros and cons and so forth. So at this time, we don't have a redevelopment agency, and I don't know if that redevelopment agency that we have would ever be activated. Yes, John?
The Lode Hotel wouldn't be a higher priority? I'm just kidding, sorry.
After the bulldozer.
Yeah, well, the question was, wouldn't the Lode Hotel be a higher priority? So I think what we'd be looking at is what potentially could be the most beneficial as far as an economic driver. And so in the downtown area, you have the visitor center, you have a few restaurants, you have like the Mercantile is opened up. If you haven't been to the Mercantile, you should go there. And then we've got our other restaurants, the shops and so forth, and then the theater, which helps to bring some people in. But you really don't have enough there, in my opinion, to really get that synergy, to really get it so that people will go there and stay for prolonged periods of time because there's lots of activity and lots of things to do in the downtown. Yeah.
I have two questions. How do you see the private sector now that this plan's in place? Because it takes private sector investment and entrepreneurial zeal to make this happen. What do you see as the obstacles to that? And secondly, during your absence and your deployment, what's your vision of how the city operations are going to exist in your absence?
Okay. So the first question pertains to the branding plan and how
We'll make it happen now.
Make it happen,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Okay, we have a very strong group of business people that have divided up into different subcommittees that working on marketing, working on product development, which is basically the stage or what we have. There's lots of outreach types of activities that are going on. As I mentioned before, we've been able to bring in quite a bit of money. One of the things that, for example, that the group was very instrumental in getting was the $300,000 facade grant for the downtown. So we're bringing those kinds of things in. So, and it is a 5 to 15-year initiative, but there's a lot of very good people that are working it, and there's good cooperation with the city. So it's with anything. You really have to roll up your sleeves. You have to work on it. The plan itself, and if you haven't read the plan, it's a great read. It talks about all the steps that we need to go through and how we need to work through this to make this actually happen. And it's a successful model that other communities have followed. As far as the city and during my absence, that will be determined by the city council. There's a number of different options for some interim city management services that can be provided. So the council will have to determine how to do that. We have a really good staff, so the staff will be able to manage a lot of the day-to-day affairs. Also, with the current lull in the economy, that also has implications on the planning department, the building department, and so forth. So there's an opportunity there for them to work some other special projects, which they have been working, that normally they wouldn't have the time or ability to be able to work on. So, with those factors in mind, we think we should be, we'll be able to manage through. Yeah, John.
How's it going to work with the Iraqi government? Is there protocols in place now for you guys working? Are you guys be working on town by town, or what do you guys think you're going to be actually working on?
I will actually be working with the Department of State, and so there will be a Department of State provincial reconstruction team leader, and then I will be the senior military liaison for that province, and then I will work with them, and so we'll provide we'll be working the governments right there with the Department of State. So we've got one person in a suit and tie, the other one in a uniform, working together to help the Iraqis provide everything that they need for their government. So it's actually, this is, as the military pulls out its combat forces, then we will be there to work with the Department of State. So it's a civilian-led effort. And so one of the reasons I was looked at very strongly for going to this and as a very desirable asset was the fact that I was city manager and Army, so I can help to provide that transition as we go from more of a military to strictly civilian.
Well, I guess the other question is, will you guys have any fiscal clout as far as redevelopment projects or infrastructure projects? I mean, are some of those, are you going to be taking some spending capability with you to actually do some on-the-ground improvements as well, or is that?
I can't answer that specifically because I don't know the
Yeah.
answer, but I do know what has happened with the PRTs, as they're called, Provincial Reconstruction Teams, that there has been funding that goes through that helps with the various types of things, the building of schools and various infrastructure projects and things like that. My understanding is those things will continue to go forward, and what the relationship will be between the military funding of those sources and then the Department of State, I'm not sure how that will work out, but based upon what has happened in the past, then everything would indicate to me that there still will be opportunities for providing those kinds of funds, but I'm not sure,
Yeah.
precisely.
I guess one last question. On the needs assessment over there, I mean, they still have some real issues as far as electrical, I mean, real infrastructure,
Yes,
domestic infrastructure issues, right? Is that, yeah, I mean, just,
yeah, we lost our power yesterday in the city. Got a little experience in that. Yes, Doug.
Just a little personal question, maybe. Could there be a star in this for Colonel Shears?
In order to be promoted to a general, you need to have completed the Army War College and to have completed a successful brigade level command. I have done both of those. I have not put in for general. I don't know if I will put in for general. I can tell you that the sacrifices that are made by reservists are tremendous. The sacrifices made by reservist families are horrendous. It is a huge, huge burden. It's one that we carry with honor, that we're proud of and so forth. But I can tell you that I know for me in particular, my wife and I, we've talked about, what this means for us and our family. And, I've got 3 teenage boys, and there's never a good time, and it's always a huge sacrifice. And so, going to general, it just keeps on adding the responsibilities and everything. So I don't know, I'm not ruling that out, but kind of see how things go and see, how things are with the family and so forth. Because, while I love the service and I really appreciate everything about the service, the demands are incredible. And I just, I got to put family first. So I don't know, if that would be the case or not.
Well, Tim, thank you. That was wonderful.